appreciate you having me and
Yeah,
look forward to visiting.
absolutely. It's great to meet you. And I want to begin our journey into your good work by asking you this 5 years ago, this pandemic was really gripping us, throwing
Yeah.
everything into levels of unknown. How much of living through that pandemic era has affected and influenced the way that you live your life today?
That's a really great question because it changed everything that we thought about in the way that we run our lives or the process that we live around. And so for us being in that employment and staffing and putting people to work business, boy, we took that direct hit. And what was interesting is we had to learn how to do things differently. And it changed us not just from the way that we run our business, but the operational function of how we live our lives. And so I was a staunch in the office every day person, had to be there. Nobody could work from home. How could we do that? But one of the things that over our 21 years we were lucky to have, I guess you would call it, was that we had a large operation in South Texas. So in the Houston area and dealing with hurricanes and having to have our employees basically load up their families and bug out.
Yeah.
They would move north to higher ground, Austin or even to Dallas, let's say. And so we were used to we had boxes already made. We called them bug out boxes, and they were created so that the employee could put their phone, computer, laptop, essentials, keyboard, mouse, Cat 5 line, power cords, some files, load them up in this box, and pretty big size box, but it had a handle and they could carry it.
Yeah.
And it made us mobile. We had already been doing video interviews, had already been using technology, voice over IP. So when COVID hit, we weren't we weren't in the dark like so many going, oh my gosh, what do we do? We have landlines. How do we do this? How do we even communicate? We had already been experimenting, so we knew what it was going to be. We bugged out, we went home. What's interesting is that we never really went back to the office. And we did go back in a very limited function. Most of our locations went virtual, except for our headquarters in downtown Dallas. That stayed functioning really for the full 4 years. We were, I guess, lucky to be awarded some contracts where we were swabbing noses in parking lots. So we put 800 people to work all over the state and all over the United States as well. But we never really went back.
Yeah.
And I think our employees were concerned about me when last year I said, we're going 99.9 remote. And we still have our location headquarters from a functional office, but I was there yesterday. That was the first time I've been to the office in 10 days.
Wow.
So it really changed. In fact, it's funny. I told my wife when I was driving home last night, it was kind of weird. I wasn't used to being in the office.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to work at home just like most of us have. I figured out how to actually be way more productive. I was also very productive in the office because no one was there.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And I've also figured out how to have better meetings. And so it's a really unusual situation because companies are calling people back. They've figured out how to make it work. People are, I get it. It's real estate. They're paying for it. But for me, I think that's the biggest thing that changed was for myself to understand change and not to always look back and do it just the same way, but to recognize just like technology has changed us, we have to change. We made it through when they came out with microwaves.
Yeah.
We still had to have cooks and chefs. We did the same thing when we got the Atari for the first time, the VCR and the internet. And today we've just had to figure out how to make it work. And AI is kind of that same way that we're it's not going to kill us.
Right.
It's only going to make us better.
Yep.
But us old individuals, we've got to embrace it a little bit more and be open to it. It
Absolutely.
works for some, not
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah, well said. So
Yeah.
let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of fifth graders at career day, and one of the kids in the back of the room is like, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
Yeah. So, it's funny that's a really interesting one because the fifth grader never usually wants to hear what I do for a living. But the best way to explain it to them is that we bring great people to great companies. and we go out to try to find the best of the best so that that their mom or dad has an opportunity to bring something home to that family every day. And you know, it's interesting, when I started in the business, it was a lot different. It was about that relationship, and people, I mean, 20 something, 25 years ago, we had a, you know, a pool out there of individuals looking for work, a real pool, a real, like a lake, an ocean of full of individuals looking. And when you put people into positions, they actually said, thank you. Thank you for doing what you do. You saved my home from being foreclosed, or I've got a position and my kids can eat. And it's changed. It's not the same way. And part of that is that that mentality has changed about the way that we go about trying to find jobs and careers. And we make changes a lot different. You know, we used to get a position and stay with a company for 20, 30 years sometimes. Maybe our whole career, we never looked somewhere else. And now you look at it, and according to the government, and they don't do this report every year, but it came out 2 years ago. It'll come out again next year. 2.4 years with a company is the average.
Yeah.
And that is kind of mind-boggling when you look at it. And it's really changed over time about how we adapt and change. And so with that, the technology has changed, and the way that people look for a new career opportunity has changed. It's not the same.
Yeah.
It used to be, we're going to get a resume, we're going to put it on Monster and Career Builder or Hot Jobs, and or we're going to fax it. And then that changed, and it went to emails, and it went to, you know, we had the birth of social media, and it was like, oh, well, you know, Facebook and Twitter, they're going to change everything. And it didn't really happen. It really evolved into more, and then it evolved into what today is the most important really platform out there for people, and that's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And what's interesting with LinkedIn and the platform is that it really goes back to one of the core functions of what we do as humans, and why AI doesn't concern me today. And that is that we have to communicate. And LinkedIn is a platform that allows you still to communicate, to have conversations, and to network. And if you think about it, that's what this is all about. And putting people together and finding, you know, a new opportunity for someone to go to work, or a new career, or a company that's looking. It's about networking. And all of us have heard that. Well, you got to go out and network. You got to go. We used to go to networking events, right? And we would get together. And of course, when COVID hit, we didn't go to networking. We went to Zoom events, and you, I mean, those were awkward. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same to go and hang out with a bunch of people and have a glass of wine on Zoom, because you didn't know how many glasses of wine the person had before they got there, or what was going to come out of someone. And you couldn't all be in one place, and it wasn't possible to really look around the room and look at the audience necessarily. And so we've all had to change. We've all had to adapt to figure out a different way to do things. Uh, but it is interesting that it's after, I call it BC, you know, before COVID,
Uh-huh.
and after COVID, it's changed. And now we're growing into something a lot different.
So when you were that age, when you were in grade school, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I think that was part of the problem, is I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, I came from a well-off family who had a father who was an attorney, and so I grew up outside of Detroit, and we never had some of those same worries that a lot of people did. We went to private Catholic school. Mom stayed at home. I'm the oldest of four kids. But what we had was a father who was the oldest of nine kids, who grew up in Detroit during the Depression,
Yeah.
who paid his way through NYU law school, you know, picking up bottles and returning them for 10 cents every bottle, or bottle caps and paper routes. And so he had a work ethic that today we would call child labor like violations. And I look back and I think, you know, at 11 years old, I was delivering newspapers for the Detroit News at 11 years old. I mean, that's not possible. And like at 12, my younger brother, who's 2 years younger, we had two paper routes, doing the paper routes. And we were also caddies at Oakland Hills Country Club. And I mean, 12 years old.
Yeah.
It was normal.
Yeah.
And at 13, we had actually bought another paper route, outsourced part of it. So we were making money off of that. We were caddies, and I was washing dishes at a place called the Palace Fine Foods. I lied about my age, said I was 15, uh, and going to private school. And our dad was an attorney, and he was okay with it. I mean, I look back and think my two kids, that would never have happened.
Right.
And then, so I think it was something that was instilled in us about hard work and ethics and what you were going to do. And getting into the business I'm in today, in the recruiting business of 25 years, and looking at that, I look back over that wasn't what I went to college for. That's not what I thought I was ever going to do. I didn't even know what a recruiter was
Yeah.
until I was recruited to understand this industry and this business and to see how many hundreds of billions of dollars it is every year. But it's not for everyone either. It's not an easy type of a thing to do.
Yeah.
It's communication, it's talking to people, it's having relationships, it's networking. It is a lot of old school way of doing things because it's people and it's emotions, and it's very rewarding at the end of the day to help someone do better. And so it's just something that you're very grateful for.
And you're changing lives. It's a big deal for people to secure a job and to help themselves. What was the first client? What was the moment that you knew this was your line of work? This
Yeah.
is where you
Yeah.
need to be.
That's a really great story. So I went to work for Fortune 500, Robert Half International, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have a clue. And this was right after 9/11. And so, we're going into this recession. It's a horrible time. Not only is it a horrible time, it's a recession, and I'm selling IT. I'm selling to put people to work as contractors. And at the same time, my wife works at American Airlines. I mean, really,
Yeah.
this is, and I'm telling her, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. And she's like, you're nuts. And we have two young kids. And I placed an individual for an IT help desk position. And a grown man. He started crying on the phone. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's all right. He goes, no, you don't understand. My home was about to be foreclosed on. Now I have a job. I have kids. I can't tell you how much I'm so thankful. I won't let you down. I'll make you the best person ever. I'll make you look like this incredible. I promise. I will make you look good. And I would look. Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that. I went home, was having dinner with the family, and was telling the story. And our daughter, she was like 5, and it's like a Tim McGraw song. I mean, she looks up at me and she's like, "You're the greatest dad."
Wow.
That was it.
That's it.
I literally looked at my wife and said, I'm done. I'm never doing something different.
Yeah.
This is it. That one moment, and my daughter reminds me of that all the time, especially when she wants something. That was the moment. And it changed me as a person. It really, it was strong. Now I will say, and I tell this story a lot, it's not the same today. And that's what's probably sad,
Yeah.
is that people have changed. All of us, I think, have a thicker skin today in many ways that we're not as thankful. We've become very lucid about the idea that you should do this for me. This is what you do. I mean, that person didn't pay me a dime. That's how I made a living. But it's 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 not the same, and you don't get as many thank yous anymore. Instead, we get, "Why don't you do this? Why can't you do this?" It's more unfortunate, and part of that is that a lot of people got into this business. I sometimes will put that in conjunction, like with a car salesman. Car salesmen get a bad rap. I'm just going to tell you, it's horrible because whenever you want to talk about something negative, you're like, "Oh, are you like a used car salesman?" And I always, when somebody says that, I'll say, like, can you explain that to me? Because I've had a lot of great car salespeople. I don't know a
Yeah.
whole lot about cars.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And it's like a recruiter. Look, I'm well versed in this. I know what I do. I can't go sell a car, but I know about people. I know about the companies. I know about a process. I know about how to get you there sooner. And this is what I am as a subject matter expert. And so sometimes, unfortunately, people put you in that same kind of boat, and that's not where you want to be. But when that one person tells you thank you, it's an unbelievable feeling. Joe, I can't explain it.
Oh yeah.
It's just an unbelievable feeling that know that you've helped someone or changed a life.
You know, my dad was a used car salesman his whole life, and he was so good at it. Like when I went
Yeah,
to work with him, and it used to be heartbreaking because when I'd go to work, there would be another car salesman that would be there, and he'd be like, "Hey, do you want to sell cars like your dad?" And of course, yeah, you want to be like your dad, right?
right.
And I'm like, Sure." And he's like, "No, my son's not going to do that. He's not going to be a dummy like me. He's going to go to college and get another get a job." And
Yeah,
it always hurt me. And
yeah.
but when you say that about, car salesmen, I've had great experiences. I go to CarMax. I love them. I still keep
Yeah,
in touch with
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And my dad was just good at what he did, but he wasn't putting people in jalopies. He was finding what they could afford, and he was finding the right car. And that's what they're almost like lawyers. They have to know a little bit about everything and do the
There,
right
there,
thing.
no, there is a Lexus dealership here in Dallas, Sewell Lexus, which, by the way, was in the original book. I can't think of the name of the book, but I can't think of the name of the book, but the best companies to whatever. God, I just went blank on it. Anyway,
Yeah.
his name is Eddie Chan.
Uh-huh.
He has been my car salesman, and for years, not only mine, but my kids,
Yeah.
my wife, all of us.
Yeah.
Even I don't even drive a Lexus anymore.
Right.
And I still get, and he's still there, like 27 years later. I still get the text and an email on my birthday, Father's Day. He'll sometimes just call just to talk. And again, I don't even drive one anymore,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. I totally agree with you on that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And when that's what I wanted, or even if I'm going to throw something and toss it off him, I'm going to go buy something different. He'll tell me why not to,
Yep.
and just say, look, here's how many of those I get back in trade-ins. This is what I get. I agree. And that's what you go to.
Yeah.
I don't call my lawn guy when my garbage disposal breaks, right?
Yep.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just think God bless these people that do what they
Uh-huh.
do, and you just have to be above everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, who's been an inspiration, a hero for you in your life?
Yeah. So I, again, kind of gave you that story about working and doing some crazy things. When I was like 14, 15, we moved to Texas, which was part of probably the best thing that ever happened to me and our family. My dad recognized that Detroit at that time in the 80s, early 80s, not the place to be. We needed to leave, and we did. And we moved to Plano, Texas, which at the time was this little town north of Dallas. Nobody really ever heard of. It was a weird name. Today, it's home of massive Fortune 500s, and I'm proud to say our family was a part of that. In fact, there's 3 streets named after our family in Plano, and the work ethic was not just from my dad, but even our mom.
Yeah.
And so we moved to Texas. I'm going to get a job. I'm bagging groceries at a grocery store for a pretty good sized chain out of East Texas who was opening up in Plano, and ready to graduate high school, go to college, and my parents get divorced, and our dad basically leaves us, and we got a single mom now. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I'm working, bagging groceries, going, I mean, no different than what we ever did. That's how we were raised.
Yeah.
And our mom got a job, was now having to take care of what we had to do. And this company that I went to work for was called Brookshire Grocery Company. And my parents, when my dad left, said, "You're good luck, figure out how you're going to go to college." And I went to them and said, "Man, I got to work more because I got to pay for college." And they said, "We have a scholarship program." And I was like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Number one. Number two, how do I get it? What do I do? And I said, number three, I've only been here like 6, 9 months. And they said, look, we can tell your work ethic, what you do. Everybody loves you. You just got to talk to the regional manager, who was this grizzly bear guy who would come in and just scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, do it, sign me up. What do I got to do? And they put me in touch with him. And his name was Ronnie Horton.
Yeah.
And he just said, he just scared you. But he recognized things and he said, there's a career opportunity. Have you ever thought about this? And I'm like, no, I don't even know enough. How much is a grocery man? I don't know what these people make. I don't
Yep.
understand. I'm young. I'm stupid. Uh, He said, well, you got to go through the process. I'll hook you up with the VP and Tyler of HR. You'll have to go interview, but you'll do great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do it. I did it. I got the scholarship. Long story short, kept working at Brookshire's.
Yeah.
Ronnie Horton mentored me, instilled things in me, became a father figure to me, uh, taught me about business, taught me about people. And I stayed for 8 years when I decided I needed a change, and this wasn't going to be for me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, working every weekend, retail is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I all the way up to an assistant store manager. The only way I was going to be a store manager, they were I was going to have to get married pretty much, and I was a single guy, and I wasn't going to get married at the time, and I hadn't found the right person, and it just wasn't for me working every, and I had to leave, and it was a sorry, sad day for me.
Yeah.
He resonated in with me so deep that it never went away. And that as I moved on through my next figuring out what I was going to do until I landed up where I'm at. Funny story is that I was golfing with a bunch of guys years later, and it was a new golf course, new homes built on the course, and there was a house on the corner. Just had the windows all put in, was still just in the dry. Boy, and I hit a ball, and it went through one window of that house and out the other window. And, typical golfer, I'm like, well, nobody's in the house living there. So thank goodness.
Yeah.
Do I have to really tell anybody?
Yeah.
I get up there and there's this guy standing at this right there at the fringe of this house. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. And he's looking and I'm looking at him. And all of a sudden he just yells, it figures it would be Kasko that's going to hit a golf ball through my brand new home. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It's Ronnie Horton. And we hadn't visited in years and we caught up and it was a great little visit. And I told him, I had an opportunity to tell him how much, he really had done for me. And I really appreciated that. And fast forward years later, I get a phone call and he's passed away suddenly. Had a horrible brain aneurysm and passed away while he was at a meeting with Brookshire's. Well, we create this business and we're doing the staffing and we're doing executive recruiting. And I have an opportunity to actually hook up with a former individual that I worked with, mentored. We bagged grocery together. When I left, he kind of took over my spot. He stayed in the business. He stayed for 35 years in the business. He was ready for a change. And he was inspired by what I did. And I said, look, I don't know what a grocery manager makes anymore. Maybe that's a niche. Well, he told me what they made. And grocery store managers' salaries, some of these places pay 150 to 200,000 a year salary
Yeah.
plus bonuses.
Yeah.
And I just was like, we got to be in that business. That's a business for us.
Uh-huh.
He came to work, and one day we just started talking about Mr. Horton and came up with the idea to do a scholarship in his name. And we went out to the Horton family and met with them. And I said, I want to do a scholarship. I want to give back. But the only way I'll do it is if I have your blessing and if you guys are involved, for no other reason that there's some kid out there that was just like me, that this father and husband made a difference. And when we did it, it was unbelievable the number of people that came out that had never had a platform or opportunity to talk about him. And it was unbelievable, the
Wow.
number of people that came out and said, he did the same for me. Here I am today. This is what I'm not in that business, but what a difference he made. And I just kept thinking, if I just change one life,
Yep.
then I accomplished what I need to. And it's
Yeah.
been a real blessing.
So at the end of the day, Bill, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, well, I know and it's funny, we've had this conversation lately, and there are people that have been with me in the business for 21 years. And there are people, even some vendors. In fact, I had a conversation last week with one who had worked for one of our partners years ago, got out, got back in with a different company. Now we're working together. And she made the comment. She said, you're not the same guy that you were 20 years ago. And I went, no, I know. I was a complete ass. I was, uh, I was not a good person. And you go through different things and you change and you make mistakes. We all do. And part of that is recognizing things. And over the years, I haven't been the same person. I in times was a complete ass, but I also know I push people and I push them to be the best they can, not because I want to be an ass, but because I know they can do more and they're just not pushing themselves.
Yeah.
The other part is that, and I've talked about this in different forums. I was a homophobe, no doubt,
Yeah.
absolutely 100% growing up for years. I don't even know if that's politically the right way to say it,
Right.
but I was.
Yeah.
And I hired an individual 15 years ago who came to work with us, and I interviewed him, was in there for hours, and came out, and the staff looked at me and they're like, "How did it go?" And I'm like, "I love this guy." And they went, "You know he's gay." And I went, "What?" And they go, "Yeah." And I said, "I had no idea. I had no clue."
Yeah.
This person changed my life. He literally changed me as who I am as a man.
Yeah.
And the only way that I could be who I am today is to recognize I wasn't the right person.
Right.
And he made me understand more. Even though from a religious standpoint, I had conflicts, I still could have this discussion, but he changed me as a man.
Yeah.
He came to work with us, became a vice president of our company. And then now 5 years ago, he passed away suddenly, young, 40. And it was tragic. But today I still live that life of understanding and looking at things different. And if he was here today, and I know he knows it, because I know he knows he made a difference to me and who I am today, and the way that I not only look at people, but the way that I interact and treat people, and that I also recognize I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I'm trying to do the best that I can. And as a human, as a person on this earth, every day is different. We're challenged every day, and all we can do is try to learn from our mistakes and get better every single day. And so it's not just one person; it's so many different pieces over our lives that make a difference.
Absolutely. So well
And it's
said. What a great
hard
story.
sometimes to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
I get criticized from people sometimes. They're like, you shouldn't talk about that." I'm like, I want to talk about it.
It's growth.
It was a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
growth. That's what we do as humans. That's how we
Yeah.
evolve. So, Bill, if anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more about what you're doing, your business, any of the good business, where do they go?
You bet. So the best place is our website. It's just the name of our company, frontlinesourcegroup.com. LinkedIn, I'm going to tell you, is the best place to go.
Yeah.
So follow us on LinkedIn, communicate, connect with me. If you hear this, tell me that you did. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
But, opportunity to work with great people is what we always want to do.
I love it. Bill, what a great story. Thank you so much for being raw and open, and best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate all your time and having me on.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.